Well, apologies to people who were hoping that this was going to be a live stream. It's not. We've had to default to recording because of technical issues. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to interview you, Catherine. Um, I've known you for what is it now? Since tail end of last year, tail end of 2023. So, for those of you that don't know, I do contract work for Catherine on marketing. And she was actually very kind to give me one of my first paid roles in marketing. So I was doing a lot of marketing for my own business. And I reached out to CBI Business and said that I was new in the marketing space and I had a little bit of experience, but I wanted to build up my resume. So she very kindly hired me to do some marketing work for her businesses. And I now have four clients, including Catherine, who I do marketing work for. So thank you very much for that. So I'm really excited to talk to you about the background of CBI, your background as to why you founded it, and also obviously talk about some of the employment trends in Alberta, because Alberta is hitting the ball out of the park in Canada in terms of job creation, and a lot of people are looking to move here if they haven't already. Obviously, employers are looking to hire and job seekers are looking for roles. And you are the expert, I think, in Alberta of the whole employment scene from both sides of the aisle. So, welcome, Catherine. And could I hand over to you just to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Well, thank you, Krista. I do want to say too, you have been an amazing addition, incredible addition to our team, and I'm grateful that you're leading all of the strategy around marketing and social media, et cetera. So thank you. And
Thank
I'm really
you.
happy to be here. I'm so excited to get started. I started Prominent Personnel actually in 1998 as an oil and gas search firm. And that was coming off of 10 years of being in a sales position. And the reason I started headhunting, I call it headhunting search firm, is because when I was a salesperson, I was making referrals happen. And all salespeople will say this, or people that are enjoying connecting people, they'll say that that's the best part of what we get to do is connecting people in organizations that we believe in. So as a salesperson, I was doing it. And then I was fortunate to have a really great mentor with O'Callaghan Honey. Michael Honey actually sat down with me and helped me and guide me on how to start my company. And because of him, it started off with a bang, and we did a really good job for many years. And then lots of things happened in the industry when September 11 happened, et cetera. So that morphed into something different as well. There was three of us left where we moved remotely, and that was fortunate. We really enjoyed that. And then I had a great addition in Carmen Goss, where she came on as a vice president initially. And then when I joined another organization as a full-time person with Coral Holdings, I decided that Carmen should be president. So she ran Prominent Personnel for a while. And then when Coral was ending, I wanted to relook at how to rebrand or redo Prominent Personnel. Carmen was retiring, and I wanted to get back into headhunting full time. I love that. That's my favorite thing to do out of all of the work that I've done over the years because of the passion of connecting people. So we rebranded and called it CBI. And what I love about that is that allows us to work in all industries. It's not branded only for oil and gas, although that certainly is a passion of mine. That's a lot of my friends are still in that industry. And now we work in all industries. In fact, we've placed even into government roles, although we certainly do prefer the private sector to work in. And corporate is our favorite to work.
That's fascinating. It's really interesting actually the kind of employment landscape in Alberta because it's got such a I guess you could call it a volatile industry with oil and gas where the price of oil goes up and down and the kind of days of prosperity and then the leaner times can be quite jarring. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences in hiring during those periods? Because Alberta's had a lot of ups and downs, particularly in that industry.
It's so true. And I think that was part of the reason why we needed to look at other industries as well to be more sustainable and be flexible to be able to have that opportunity to I guess level out the ups and downs. And you're right, that's the difficult part about oil and gas is that part of it. Although I have felt that in recent years, especially with Premier Smith in her position, I have felt, and I think a lot of the industry would say that we're feeling it, that it's much more stable, and certainly a lot of growth areas as well. So that's been fortunate. But you're right, it's an up and down, and it's not always easy. Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, definitely. Alberta's doing really well at the moment in terms of attracting and creating private sector jobs. Could you talk a little bit about the economic landscape here and what's driving that?
Well, I think just generally Alberta is doing much better, although I know all of us know that there's still pockets of vulnerable citizens that are hurting. And because of inflation and all of those sorts of things, the bottom has certainly dropped out of the middle class. My partner and I are always volunteering to feed our homeless on the streets, and the amount of new homeless is quite shocking and very disheartening. So it breaks my heart for sure. So although Alberta generally is doing better and there's a lot of great jobs, I find that there's a disconnect between where the jobs are and where the people can be. So some of some of the areas or the pockets that are on fire right now are all around artificial intelligence, blockchain, data analysts, data scientists, all of the people that were not necessarily even on the scene 10 years ago. That is a big driver right now for a lot of organizations. They're trying to make things more automated and take advantage of where the market is taking us, so that we can create those efficiencies. Where that leaves other people that maybe were probably looking for a job, and maybe that job doesn't exist anymore, that's where retraining will be required, and that's where hopefully there's going to be some counseling for those folks, where they can then think about where that next career move might be.
Why do you think that Alberta is attracting so much innovation? Because I've noticed this certainly as a province that it has a very entrepreneurial spirit. There's a lot of innovation going on, and the AI sector really does seem very hot here. Why is it that these organizations and these technologies and the companies driving them are interested in being located here?
And I think that that's twofold. I first think that for my whole life, I have found that Alberta has always been extremely creative and innovative. We're always finding ways to be efficient, clean, responsible, and of course, profitable. And all of those things are hand in hand. So, from my experience, even as a salesperson 30 years ago, I was selling environmental services, and the oil and gas industry was very much on the forefront of that. There was larger companies that insisted that we were meeting all of these regulations, and that has just continued and morphed into much more responsibility for environment and practices, etc., which is also efficient and clean and profitable in the end. So the innovation piece has always been there. And now we're just seeing where innovation has allowed us to go even further. How can we get to net zero at some point? Everyone's focused on ensuring that we're doing the right thing for Alberta, for Canada, for the world. So it's coming from Alberta, you're right, and it's pretty exciting.
Wow. And what does this mean then for employers? Because I imagine if you're an employer right now in Alberta, it's comparatively easy to attract talent here versus perhaps other locations. What do these trends mean for employers, and what are you seeing in terms of the employment landscape?
Alberta is a hotspot for where people want to be. What's really great about that is the ones that are attracted to Alberta are here for the mountains, the lakes, the affordability. And I know it's, again, we talk about our vulnerable citizens that will probably argue with me that in fact they don't feel that it's affordable here, and we're some gaps there. But generally, there's an affordability that we've got examples of people and organizations that are living here in Alberta and commuting to Vancouver and or Toronto because they don't feel that that's where they and their families want to live for lots of variety of reasons. Affordability meaning one, but also where do they want to raise their family? You know, it's a safe community generally, that is focused on family, that has all these wonderful opportunities to to thrive and to enjoy their lifestyle.
And what kind of skill sets are employers really looking for right now then? Because you touched on a lot of these kind of technology based, trends. Is that primarily where you're seeing the requirement, or are you also seeing demand for, more trades based skills? Like what's the trend that you see from, I guess, what employers need in this province?
You're right. There's the trades is a big one. Truck drivers, people that will clean homes and commercial buildings. There's a lot of labor type skilled labor as well that is needed that we do definitely have a gap for as well. We've got restaurants that are closed much of the day because they can't get people to work for them. So there's
Wow.
definitely a need for sure, and that's not generally CBI's expertise. We certainly focus on corporate, but we try from an Alberta Enterprise Group perspective. We try to raise money for building trade charter schools so that people can get trained into the areas of where there's opportunities and pockets that are vacancies, like all of the
Yeah.
things you mentioned.
And so you've obviously got a lot of experience in sourcing good candidates for employers. What advice would you give employers who are looking to hire in terms of the tips and tricks, I guess, from your I guess it's more than, well, maybe two or more decades now of experience of doing this, in terms of finding the right candidate. How should they go about this? Obviously, outside of the obvious of contacting CBI.
Well, thank you for that. I'll give a trick. My trick is always this, and I say this to all of our clients, is that we start with a wide net. So because our network is so massive, and fortunately so, we go everywhere. When we start a new search, we reach out to every person that has a few keywords that we're looking for. And we literally tell everybody that comes up what it is we're looking for. And that is just the first net. That it's not even necessarily going very deep and learning more about the people that you're touching base with, other than they're in your network already, which is great. So reach out to them, see if they know anyone. If it happens to be them and they're interested, wonderful. Put them on the list to consider, but continue doing that and cast the net for many reasons. Diversity and inclusion is definitely something that all of our organizations, fortunately, are paying attention to. In order to consider all candidates that are capable of doing that job, that wide net is required. So you're still hiring based on merit, but you've done a wonderful job of making sure that you've got a full cross section of what is available in the market for that role to be filled. Then you can feel confident that you have interviewed the top 5 or 10 individuals that are being considered to find the right fit. And then, of course, there's many iterations after that with further background checks, etc. But that first initial phase, it's a lot of work. That's obviously the part I love, because I love reaching out to my network. I love seeing what's going on in everyone's lives. It makes it fun for me. And if I happen to find somebody that's interested in applying, that's even bonus. Then I'm excited. I look forward to taking them further through the process. So it's that wide net that's important.
Do you think that when you talk about a wide net, is it useful for employers to reach beyond their province, let's say, or their local geographical area, even if they're looking to hire somebody who's going to be working in person? Like, would you recommend going very broad?
That will depend on the company and if they're willing to relocate. So the majority, unless the candidate is interested in moving to Alberta, let's say, or to wherever that location is for their own purpose, and they're willing to pay the relocation fee, which is very, very rare. They might be coming back for family reasons or something like that. So that might be possible, but the employer may find themselves spending a lot of time and funds, time is equal funds, looking for that person that's outside of province that unfortunately will not be able to relocate on their own. They would have to pay. So the employer would need to decide if it was worth it to bring somebody in from outside and pay relocation.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you talked about as well having this wide net for screening candidates. So if employers have this wide net, um, what should they then be looking for? Because I think one of the observations that I've seen in the corporate world is that and I guess it's an efficiency thing, right? It's a scale thing, but people tend to focus very much on what's on a resume and much less on actual skill sets. So, how do you think that employers can approach that and do a better job of actually sourcing somebody who's best for the job and maybe doesn't necessarily have the right requirements on paper?
That is interesting. So that normally comes through a referral. It's very difficult to tell from a resume. And if, let's say, you've got somebody looking through a bunch of resumes that have come in, maybe they put up an Indeed posting or it's been on their website or something like that, and there's several to look through. Unless that person was able to meet with all of them, it would be impossible to know if that person could generally be a fit and be trained for all of the other things that person needs to learn for that role. So where we're effective is, and this is for any search firm, is when somebody is being referred, they would say to me, I see the job posting. Thank you. I'm not interested, but I know someone who maybe not have everything that you're looking for, but I would recommend that you take a look because I've had experience with this person in a role like this. It just doesn't necessarily show up on their resume. That is perfect. That is a way that you want to find somebody like that. And from a candidate perspective, when it's somebody who is looking to do something maybe different. Maybe they've been doing something the same forever. They've got some really great skills, but to show that those skills are transferable into whatever role that is impossible when it's online. Their job is then to find the employer that is willing to meet with them, to learn more about them. And sometimes that's just building relationships prior to a job posting ever being live. It's learning more about that company. Maybe there's a company that is a dream job that they're thinking would be a dream job. Get to know who's in that company. Take them for coffees, learn more, read everything that's going on online, like some of their things, comment, get to know them better, go to their events if there's an event, something that will allow that person to help that team understand who this new candidate is. And when there's a job posting, perhaps that job posting, it doesn't go live. Maybe that person is called in for an interview, and that's where it starts.
It's interesting. I saw a statistic yesterday saying that 80% of jobs are not posted, that they're usually filled through referrals or somebody has an existing database where they already know the candidates. Would you agree with that? And like what percentage of roles do you typically see that get advertised versus being filled through somebody's network?
I think the majority of posting or the majority of roles get posted, but you're right. I think in lots of cases, they may have somebody in mind, but they want to do what they feel is appropriate by casting the wider net so that they make sure that they've gone to market so that even though they may have somebody in mind, they can then fairly look at all the candidates by interview, background checks, et cetera, then to confirm that either that's the right person or in fact they actually found another candidate that might be more suitable. Both of those things happen. Back to your question, if what would be the percentage that is never posted? I think that's 50%, 50 to 60%. They may already have somebody, many companies have employee referral programs where there's when that person is referred somebody that's outside the firm and it's somebody that they know, that's obviously a really great way to hire new people is it's a known person or known candidate to consider. They may go down that road and not spend the time, which equals money, in searching for someone new. They may see that person is already a rock star and they're going to bring them in sooner than later. So I would say 50 to 60%.
That's interesting. So I guess that brings us nicely into the segue as well of advice for job seekers. So lots of people coming to the province who are excited to work in the various industries here. There's a really rich, as I said, innovation culture in Alberta. So there's lots of stuff going on, loads of startups, loads of interesting technologies, huge AI focus. I think recently you had 𝗕𝗜 from Amy, who the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, come and speak at one of the 𝗖𝗕𝗜 events, which was fascinating. So there's lots of opportunities in that space. What would you suggest to people who are either in province or moving here who want to find a role and, want to understand how to put their best foot forward? And by the way, I should say for those listening that you've written a whole book about this. So perhaps you can touch on some of those as well, and we'll direct people to the link in the notes.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we do have the book, the last book, well, both books are available for free online on our website. And all they have to do is download it. If they want a hard copy, they just have to reach out to me directly. It's such a robust answer. I would strongly recommend that they read the book, and then if they've got any questions, they can reach out to me directly. To start, though, do their homework. So when someone is, let's say they're out of province and it's difficult to get to Calgary to apply, they have identified organizations that they want to work with. There's a whole online strategy that they could follow that helps build that relationship online. They could do much of that online. The best way is in person. So obviously, I don't know, we're at June 14th. Stampede Week is I guess it's almost 2 weeks now. It's 1 month away. That is the very best networking opportunity, and to be in front of everyone as much as possible with their business card. Yes, everybody needs a business card, even if they're looking for a job, so that people can take it away and remember them so that they can reach out to them later, and vice versa, obviously grab their business card. So build those relationships online, in person, build the network. That's most important. And then there's many, many, many tips after that. And I highly recommend reading the book and follow the steps. It works over and over again. It works.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Actually, I'd never thought of Stampede Week as a networking opportunity for jobs. So that's actually a very interesting way of positioning it. So candidates, job seekers, take note, come to Stampede. So I guess on that note, are there any specific events that you think are very, useful from that perspective? Are there any that
Yeah.
candidates should be thinking about attending if they want to go and find roles?
Yes. All of them.
Well, I
Yes,
know there
all
are
of
lots
them.
of corporate events as well. I mean, would you say more the corporate events? So if there's a company that you like, if they're running an event, is that where they should be focused? Or should they just be networking at anything that's going on, including the pancake breakfasts and all that?
Everything. And sure, there's a lot of corporate, but there's a lot of available community ones as well. Employers are everywhere. And with the mindset of going in and meeting someone with wanting to serve them as a human first, not to say, hey, are you an employer looking for a job? You're not out there to do that. You're only out there to build relationships with good quality relationships that will allow for the follow-up after and the coffees after, and building relationships. Whether they are a receptionist or a board member, each and every person that we meet is equally important. We never know who you're talking to. And let's say it's a mailroom clerk. Well, guess what? The mailroom clerk knows absolutely everybody inside of that organization. And isn't it best to make a relationship happen with them, to learn more about what's really happening at the organization? What's the culture like? Are you in hiring mode? Are you in firing mode? What do you do on team day? What does a team day look like? Why not ask a ton of questions about how that person shows up for work? Is it remote? Do they go into the office? Do they have Friday afternoon barbecues? All these things are wonderful questions to learn more about a person, to build that relationship, to ask tons of questions about them. And then what's key is to remember that. Mark it on the back of their cards, or if they don't have a card, take your card, mark all the notes on the back of yours, so that you can reach out to LinkedIn, put that into your CRM, your client relationship management software, so that you can keep track of the conversations that you have. It's so much easier to build a relationship when you can look back at the notes. Next time you talk to them, you can, oh, and how's John, your partner? How's your dog? Whatever it is that you're remembering, it's important for people to know that you were listening and that it's impressive to them when you remember as well.
Mm. Yeah, very much so, very much. Um, so I'm just conscious of time, but could you just maybe end on some final tips and tricks for both employers and employees? So any last thoughts about that that you'd like to share with people listening?
Oh, thank you. I think you're right. It's for employers and employees. I'll say, let's start with the human first. Let's remember who we are as humans. We all have other things going on outside of our work lives. Get to know them as a whole person. Celebrate them. Celebrate their successes at work, celebrate their family successes, and be there for them when they're hurting. So that's my closing remarks. I'm grateful to have been here. Thank you, Krista, for thinking of me.
Oh, thank you. That's such a wonderful way to end it. Very, very you as well. And so for people listening, if you want to contact Catherine and reach out to CBI either as an employer looking to hire candidates or as a job seeker, then drop an email to Catherine@cbibusiness.ca. The books referenced, as Catherine said, are available for free for download, or you can get a hard copy by emailing Catherine, and that's just again at cbibusiness.ca. And obviously follow CBI on social media across, well, I think every channel you're on, so Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram and Facebook, so we can put those links in there as well in the notes. And thank you so much. It's been really great chatting with you.
Thank you, Krista. Enjoy your day.
You too.